Artificial intelligence has taken the world by storm. From the release of ChatGPT to AI art generation, it feels like the world will never be the same. And there's a huge opportunity standing at the intersection of two emerging technologies, artificial intelligence and also crypto, as massive leverage to do things you could never do before. And one of these ways is to use artificial intelligence to create non-fungible tokens or NFTs. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use artificial intelligence to create your own non-fungible tokens from scratch. This will be a full stack application where users can tell the AI the types of NFTs they want to create, and it'll just spit them out instantly. This will be a great project to learn the fundamentals of artificial intelligence and also blockchain. And you don't have to be an expert to follow along today. I'll show you everything you need to know from scratch. And when you're finished, you'll have a great project that you can use for your portfolio if you're trying to land a highly paid Web 3.0 job. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory. On this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. I spent a ton of time making this video so that you can learn about this totally for free. And the only thing that asked in return is that you subscribe to this channel. You smash that like button down below because that really helps these videos out, because YouTube will show them to more people so that more people can learn about blockchain. And if you like what you saw in this video today and you want to take the next step, break into the blockchain industry, scale your income past 100K and beyond, I can show you how to do that over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. All right, so let's look at the full stack Dapp that we can create in this tutorial. So this is going to be a website that's going to let us connect our wallet, okay, with MetaMask, and then we can create generative artwork inside the website itself. I'll just say killer robot. We'll give this artwork a title. We'll give it a description. We'll say killer robot in space eating ice cream. All right, whenever we click create and mint, it's going to do two things. It's going to create the generative artwork for us with AI, and then it's going to allow us to mint the NFT with that image for the NFT image. And we'll just pay the fee to do that in MetaMask, and then once we do, it'll be on the blockchain forever. All right, so let's get a quick overview of the architecture of this specific project. All right, so let's start with the back end, the blockchain side of things. So of course, we're going to create a smart contract for the non-fungible token or the NFT. Okay, and that's going to basically govern, who owns each NFT. It's going to enforce the uniqueness and the scarcity on the blockchain, and that's going to keep track of all the wallets. So one big misconception with NFT are that you don't deploy a smart contract for each token. You have a single smart contract that governs the entire collection. That's basically what this does. It also facilitates the transfer of them and also the minting in this case, or the creation of the NFTs from scratch. All right. But what about the actual images for the NFT itself? We need a place to put those once we generate that artwork. So we're not going to put them on a blockchain. Instead, we use something called IPFS, which is an interplanetary file system. All right, it works kind of like a blockchain, but not really. It's cost prohibitive to put images on a blockchain, so you need something else. That's where IPFS comes into play. It's basically a decentralized or distributed file source system where you store redundant copies of each asset or each file, and then you have a hash that represents the location of that file on the network. So basically, we'll create a hash or a file for each image that we generate, and then we will link those back to the NFT smart contract whenever we mint them and create them from scratch, and then we'll send them to each individual wallet. So that's how the backend specifically works, but let's look at the actual application flow itself, because this is important and it's a little bit complicated. So it's good to see the steps. We'll revisit this as we create the tutorial. But basically what's going to happen is a user is going to connect their wallet, okay? They're going to go to that browser, which we saw that page a minute ago. And then on that website, it's going to do a couple different things. All right, we're going to type in a prompt to generate our image. That's going to send it to an AI generator that's on a server. So we're going to use an API for this, okay? It's going to generate the image and send it back to us, all right? And then our website is also going to take that image and then send it to IPFS, the interplanetary file system that I showed you a second ago. It's going to get that IPFS URL back. And once it does, we're going to talk to our smart contract and mint the NFT, and that will distribute, each of the different tokens back to the wallet that's generated on the website. And of course, the developer of the project will get a fee for this. I just put one Ether here as an example. So let's look at the different services that we're going to use and technologies and platforms. So for the blockchain, we're going to be using the Ethereum blockchain. We're going to write the smart contracts in Solidity. All right. But because we're writing these contracts in Solidity, you can, of course, put them on many different blockchains that support Solidity, like, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, doesn't really matter, okay? We're just going to focus on Ethereum in this video. The basics will apply to those other EVM-compatible chains as well. Now let's talk about these other services like IPFS and also the AI art generator. So we're going to use Stable Diffusion, okay? One of the most popular models for doing AI image generation, okay? And we're going to use Hugging Face, which has an API that you can use to do this, all right? You can just, create an account, get some API keys, and start calling their server, and you can do image generation, and we'll plug all that into our site here. And when we upload the images to IPFS, we're going to essentially use another service for that called NFT storage. Okay, so free storage for NFTs. Basically, you can just create an account and then post images to IPFS. It'll give you the hashes back, and then we can store those on chain whenever we mint these smart contracts to our wallet. All right, so let's go ahead and start coding out the project. So I'll put a link to this GitHub repository down in the description below. You're going to want to take this and use it a couple different ways. So number one, the master branch here is the final code solution. So if you get stuck, this is your answer book. All right, but we're going to use a starter code branch, which has some things already set up for us in the project. So we're going to have to create everything from scratch. But we're going to focus on coding out the really important parts in this video. I really want to focus on the image generation, the file uploading, and the minting of the NFTs, rather than doing everything, just from scratch. So what we're going to do is take this, copy the URL, and go to our terminal, wherever you keep your coding projects. Here's a git clone -b, all right, starter code, and then paste in the URL. And that's going to pull the project down. But this starter code branch, all right, that's important. You don't want to do the master branch because that's going to be all the answers. So you enter into that newly created directory like this, say cd AI NFT generator, okay, and then you're going to do npm install to install your dependencies on the project. And then once that's done, you're going to see output that looks like this. You might see some warnings. That's okay. Just ignore those for now. But as long as you see this message here, you'll know that your dependency is installed. So let me talk about really the dependencies that you need in order to run this. First and foremost, you need Node Package Manager. So if you had any problems running npm install, you might have seen that issue. Basically, what you need is the main dependency, which is Node.js, okay? So Node basically just lets you run JavaScript on your computer. Okay, and JavaScript normally needs a web browser to run, but Node basically gives you a runtime environment for JavaScript. It's also going to give you Node Package Manager so that you can do things like install all the other dependencies like we'll see right here, okay? So you can see if you have Node installed by just doing node-v. All right, I'm using this version. I highly recommend if you don't know what you're doing, use the same version as me. But if you're an experienced developer already, you probably are able to navigate different Node versions. So npm is the main one. You also need MetaMask installed in Ethereum wallet. Just go to your Google Chrome web store and install MetaMask if you don't already. Okay. So anyways, we've got Node up and running. We've got the project down. We've installed our project-specific dependencies. Let's look at the tools that we're going to use to create this. So first is, Hardhat. This is what we're going to use for creating the smart contracts, writing the tests, deploying the scripts, all that type of stuff. We're going to use React.js for the front end, which we'll see in a minute. All right. We're going to use, of course, Solidity for the smart contracts. We're going to use Ethers.js to talk to the blockchain from our client-side application. Okay, so that's all the dependencies sort of in the stack, and we installed most of those things when we ran npm install once we had Node.js up and ready to go. So once you've done that, go ahead and open up your project in your text editor of choice. I'm using Sublime Text. You can use whatever text editor you'd like, whether it's VS Code, Atom. I'm not sure what you all use these days. That's okay. Just as long as you're proficient in that text editor, that's totally fine. So anyways, I've got this project open. It's got a place for our smart contracts. Okay, this is a Hardhat project because it's got all the Hardhat tools in here. It's also got a React application inside of it, inside this source directory. So we've kind of mashed up two different projects all in the same place. Makes it really nice and easy to manage that way. But there's a couple things we need to set up before we do anything, all right? If you see this file here called the .env.example file, we need to use this as a template to create a new file for ourselves. Okay, so what you're going to do is duplicate this file. Okay, let's just do duplicate. And then I'm going to create something called just a .env file. All right, so we have .env.example. You want to create something called a .env file. And you don't want to show anybody the information inside of here. So first of all, what is a .env if you're not familiar? Basically, it's a place where you store secret information inside your project that you don't want to put on GitHub. You don't want to put it on a server. You don't want to put it on somebody else's computer. It's an environment variable file. Environment variables are things that are specific to your environment. In this case, that's your computer, and it should only stay in your computer, and only you should know what this information is. So what are we going to put inside of here? Well, we need API keys in order to generate the AI images. We also need API keys to upload our images to IPFS, and that's exactly what we're going to put inside of here. So I'll fill these out step by step. All right. So basically, let's start off with the Hugging Face API key. All right. So going back to our diagram, we're going to talk to an AI image generator. All right. That's going to be this stable diffusion model on Hugging Face. All right. So what you want to do is basically go to sign up, go through these setup steps. Of course, I'm not going to walk you through all this stuff because I don't want to reveal my information on screen. What you're going to do is log in. You're going to see a place to basically create an application. You're going to do that, and it's going to give you an API key. All right, you're going to copy that key. You're going to go back and put it right here. It should be really long, okay, and it looks like a bunch of gobbledygook that you're not going to understand. That's okay. The API just understands it. It knows that it's you. You can make requests. All right, the second one's going to be this React App NFT storage API key. So you can see this. NFT storage is the service we're going to use. Just go to nft.storage. Again, this other one's huggingface.co/join. This is nft.storage. Like .storage is the top level domain. It's not .com, it's .storage. Same sort of deal. Go to get started. It's going to say create an NFT storage account. You can log in with GitHub or sign up with your email, go through this flow. You're going to create an application. You're going to get the API key. You're going to copy it, and you could put it back in here. And then that way your .env will be completely filled out. And you'll be ready to rock and roll. All right, so now that that's done, let's continue with our setup steps here. All right, you can see these listed in your documentation on GitHub here. We've installed the dependencies. We've set up the API keys inside the environment variable file. Okay, you've got the links for those services in here, by the way. So next, let's do this NPX hard hat test because this might reveal a problem with your project, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. So go ahead and go to your terminal. And you're going to do, let me just bump this up so you can see it better. You're going to do npx hard hat test. Okay, and you might see this error message pop up that's saying you don't have some dependencies installed. If you run this, it's going to say, hey, please run this. Just copy it. All right, it's doing this. It's just missing some dependencies. Just do npm install -- save dev, and then just paste whatever it tells you to do. All right, so once that's done, all right, what you're going to do is rerun that command. So npx hard hat test. Okay, and if that passes, you'll know that it is set up properly. Okay, awesome. So we got some tests in there, and they completely pass. All right, so we've got some tests in here already, which means that some of our starter code actually has some smart contract code already pre-written for us with some tests associated with it to make sure that it actually works the way that we want to. So why is that? Well, first of all, creating a non-fungible token or an NFT is not incredibly complicated. Okay, I've done several NFT tutorials on my channel. You can go check out those if you want to create like an NFT from scratch. All right. But what I want to do in this video is focus more on this stuff where we're actually generating the artwork, putting it on IPFS, this whole like song and dance where we do it on the front end and then submit it to the smart contract and do the minting process and get paid as a developer. Okay. So for that reason, I don't want to spend a ton of time doing stuff that I've done quite a bit, which is like creating an NFT from scratch because they're kind of a solved problem. Okay. Non-fungible tokens just follow an ERC 721 standard, which is just, a specification for how they're supposed to work. So they're compatible with wallets. They're compatible with NFT marketplaces like OpenSea, for example. You can mint them. And so we can use a library for this. We're going to use OpenZeppelin, which is one of those popular frameworks for creating smart contracts for these types of things. And we can get most of the functionality for our NFT for free. All right, I'll show you that in the code. And then, we're basically going to be able to just kind of take that off the shelf, some minimal custom coding. I was trying to say customization, but custom coding, and then we'll just be ready to rock and roll. So I'll show you that. Inside our project, we've got this contracts directory and this NFT, .sol. So this is the entire smart contract code. It's only like 40 lines of code, okay? And most of it, or not most of it, but some of the top is just like the programming language version. We're importing the OpenZeppelin contracts here for counters, ERC 721.sol. and then for the URI storage. So what we do is we just create a contract NFT is ERC721 URI storage. That's the version that we want to use from OpenZeppelin. We have a constructor function, which basically just puts this, smart contract on the blockchain. It's the function that's run once and only once whenever the contract is created. We just give it a custom name and symbol. That's all we do inside of here. Okay, you can, it'll put those inside of there. And then we have this mint function that basically just accepts the token URI, which is going to be the URL that gets passed in. Okay, after we put it on IPFS. So whenever we do the minting, we get the URL back. We're going to call this mint function. All right, that's the minting happens here. This is sort of like the API endpoint for our smart contract. You can think about it that way. That's really all this is. And then we just have some customization that overrides the total supply. Okay, that just tells us how many NFTs actually exist. And then we have this withdrawal function that lets the developer withdraw the ether from the contract whenever the fees are paid. So, the flow is the user pays 1 ETH to mint an NFT. It goes through all this whole thing. It just calls the mint function. This mint function is payable, which means that you can send in cryptocurrency with it. And that cryptocurrency is going to get stored in the smart contract. And then at any time, the developer can just call this withdrawal function that will take any of the stored ether from the smart contract and it will pull it into their wallet. And so if you want to see all the behavior from this type of stuff specified, you can go to the test directory. You go to test and look at nft.js. All right. We've got an entire test written for you here already that talks about, the deployment. It returns, it has some behavior about how the minting works. Okay. And then how withdrawing the cryptocurrency works. So again, I don't want to go through all this step by step. I want to focus more on the front end side of things and the actual artwork generation and how to orchestrate all this type of stuff. Again, I've created several NFTs in my channel. You can go check out those if you want more of a step-by-step tutorial on that specific topic. But you can run these tests just to make sure they pass like this, npx hard hat test. And all these tests written here in JavaScript will automatically, be passing because the code, shouldn't have changed. Okay, so let's go ahead and get everything set up to do the front end coding. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this NFT that's already there. We're going to put it on a blockchain. Okay, so we're going to use a blockchain that starts on our computer rather than putting it out there on a real blockchain and paying a bunch of fees, or using a test network and then having to go through the process of, getting test ether, all this type of stuff. So Hard Hat, the framework that we're using, gives us something called the Hard Hat node. All right, and essentially that's going to let us start a blockchain on our computer like this. We can just take this command npx hard hat node. So I'm going to open up a new terminal tab here. Let's just see here. I'll bump up the font so you can see it better. All right, and I'm literally just going to say npx hard hat node. That's going to start a blockchain for us. It's going to give us, 20 accounts with 10,000 fake ether in them. You can see the addresses and the private keys. Again, don't use these accounts for anything in the real world. Don't put any real cryptocurrency in this, because anybody who's seen this video or has used Hard Hat is going to steal that money. Well, not anybody, but somebody will, because these are the universal private keys for Hard Hat. Okay, you can even see their warning right here. Okay, so we've got a blockchain running. And the nice thing is we can go ahead and just put our smart contracts on that blockchain because we have a deployment script already made for us. So if you go in here to the scripts directory, it says deploy.js, all right? It's got, this script that's going to put that smart contract on the blockchain, okay? So it just gets the contract here, okay? And it does, NFT deploy, and it gives the name, symbol, cost, and then you can see the address logged to the console once you do that. So if you want to customize your NFT with a unique name and symbol, this is the place to do it. So we have name right here is just AI generated NFT. You can call this whatever you want to. You could call it, my awesome NFT, or, killer robot ice cream generator, whatever you want to, right? And then you can change the symbol here, like my killer robot ice cream generator or something, right? So anyways, I'm not going to change those, but I'll show you how to run the script so you can put it on the blockchain. We'll just go to our terminal here. Back in our original tab, we'll keep it running. We'll just say, you can see the command listed in your documentation here. You can say this. So npx hardhat run dot / scripts / deploy.js. So dot's the current directory, / is the scripts directory, and then / deploy.js is the file. You want to do space and make sure you do -- network space localhost, because if you don't do that, it's not necessarily going to work properly. Okay. So you can see that it worked. NFT contract deployed here at this address. All right. And then you can see that the, it worked on chain, right? You can see the log of the blockchain transaction was submitted and it worked. And you can see the new contract address. You can see the transaction hash, the account that sent it, and all that type of stuff. So let's, now that we got the back end done, all right, it's basically done for you. You just have to set it up. Let's concentrate on this other part of the equation, which is the front end, okay? And it's going to do all this stuff. It's going to talk to our smart contract. Let us do this AI generative minting. So what we're going to do next is go over here to another tab. I'm just going to open up a new one. And we're going to start the front end like this. So we'll just say npm run start. That's going to start our React server for us. And it should open in a new browser tab with the content already loaded. All right, so this is what you should see pop up in your browser, okay? So if you go to your code, well, actually, let's look at the terminal again. We can see that the server is now running, okay? It's got some warnings inside of here. That's okay. That's because we cleared out a bunch of code for the starter branch, and it's going to have some stuff already saved in there. We'll use all of this. We'll use most of it, not all of it. We'll maybe fix the linter warnings later. Linter warnings kind of get on my nerves, but here we are. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the project. You should see it's got this minimal functionality. We can go ahead and connect our wallet. One thing I should say here is now is definitely the time to set up your MetaMask connection, okay? So if you haven't connected to Hardhat yet, you definitely want to select the Hardhat network. You can go to Add Network inside of MetaMask, all right? And you can do Add Network. Let's just see, what if they have a Hardhat setting? Hardhat. They don't have a Hardhat. So you can do Add Network manually. All right, you can do the network name. You can call it Hardhat. RPC URL. You can go back to your... let's see here, you can just copy this URL here and you can paste it inside of here. All right, you can see I've already got Hardhat, configured, so it's telling me I've got this error, but if you don't, that's what it is. For the chain ID, the answer is already in your project. If you go to, let's see here, source, let's see here, config.json, this right here is your network ID, okay? So we're gonna put that inside of here. All right, currency symbol, you can call it ETH, and then you can click Save Network. All right, so that will set up your Hardhat network. Click Save. I've already done it. It won't let me do it again, but that's the gist. So the next thing you want to do is definitely add some accounts to Hardhat. You can already see I've got Hardhat 0 already connected here. So what you can do is go to this, and you can go to Import Account, okay? And then you can go to Hardhat and then copy and paste the private keys. You can just take this private key here, paste it in. All right, it's not going to let me do it. I've already done it. But once you've done it, you can see your account here. You can, let's see here, account details. You can rename yours. So I call mine Hardhat 0 to correspond to the first account, which is account 0 in the list. And you might as well go ahead and do this for, I go ahead and just import the first 5 or 6 accounts because I like switching between accounts inside my MetaMask. I just call them Hardhat 0, 1, 2, 3. You don't have to necessarily do that, but it's not a bad thing to go ahead and do. So the next thing you want to do is go to, you want to reset your account. Let's see here, settings, advanced, reset account. Because if you restart your blockchain, sometimes you'll get errors whenever you make transactions. I like to do that. It's going to clear out any history. It's not going to delete any cryptocurrency or anything, but it basically just clears the cache inside of MetaMask that's associated with that account if you've used it before. So I just do this as a best practice whenever I restart my Hardhat blockchain. Okay, so we've got the website running. We've configured MetaMask to connect to it. Inside of here, sorry, this is a screenshot. Inside of here, make sure you're on the Hardhat network. Make sure you're connected to your Hardhat account, and then I'll refresh this page. You should be able to click connect, and it'll go ahead and pull in your wallet address here. And you've got this, boilerplate code that just says edit app.js to get started. So let's take a look at that. All right, let's close this down. You can go to say source app.js, and you'll see a bunch of starter code here for you. You can see the text here, edit app.js to get started. Let's just change this period to an exclamation point. Click save, go back to our web browser, and you'll see that the period automatically changed to an exclamation point without having to refresh. That's what's nice about React, is it hot reloads, okay? But if we refresh, you'll see that the wallet address goes away. That's because we already have the wallet connection wired up for us. Okay, we'll get into that here in a second. But let's take a quick tour of what's inside here, okay? So this is a front-end application, all right, built in React.js. Again, if you're not familiar with React, it's a JavaScript framework for creating user interfaces. It's one of the most popular front-end frameworks for creating blockchain-based applications, particularly in the Ethereum ecosystem, all right? So it's component-based, which means you can organize your code into these reusable files called components. We're using functional components in this tutorial. We're going to be using the React state object, which is this thing here, which basically says, like, you know, if you want to store any information on your front end, that's where you do it. Okay, for example, this to-do list, if you want to keep track of the items like item 1, item 2, where does that information go? It goes inside the React state. It's just what lets you store information while you've got that page loaded, okay? Like the memory for the app, all right? So we have really just two React components in this case. We're gonna have this app component, which is the main component that we're gonna code inside of today. And then we have this, let's see here, this navigation component. All right, if you go to components directory, get this navigation. This is basically already coded out for you. That's this nav bar up here that we saw a minute ago, okay, where you can basically just connect your wallet. It'll go ahead and connect the wallet for you, all right? So I've got plenty of tutorials where we code out something very similar step by step. I'm not going to go through all that in this. Again, I want to focus on the important parts of generating the AI artwork and then putting that into the smart contracts. Okay. All right, so let's start off with getting the basic UI layout done first, okay? So what we're going to do is, of course, go back to our app.js here. I'm going to put some space at the bottom so you all can see this better. That's not really coding best practice, just to put a billion spaces at the bottom of your file. I do it in my videos, just an easy way that you all can see it without having to, have the code get chopped off the screen. So what we're going to do, though, is just take out this paragraph tag. All right, we're going to create a new div tag. All right. And we're going to give this a class name. Oopsies. Equals form. All right. And then we're going to code out a form inside of here. All right. We're going to give this the name form. Okay. That's just an HTML element called form. We're going to give it input. All right. We'll do 3 inputs. All right. The first input's going to be type text. Second one's going to be type text as well. Third one's going to be type submit. All right. And then we're going to get each one a place. Well, let's just start off with that. Okay. Let's go back to our UI and take a look. Okay. So we've got, a form here. Looks awesome. All right. We're going to give a placeholder for the first thing. You can see it's really ambiguous, like what is the user supposed to do here? We'll tell it. We can put some placeholder text inside of here. So for the first one, we're going to say placeholder equals create a name, ... Save that. You can see that goes in here, create a name. All right. For the second one, we're going to give this the placeholder text, create a description. All right. The description will go here. And then finally, we want to make this better. We want to make this button have a better name. Right now, it just says submit. That's kind of boring. Let's make the user, let's give some more clues to the user. So we'll give this a value instead of placeholder. We'll say value equals create and mint. All right. So also I'm going to just kind of bump this font up a little more so you can see it. All right, create and mint. Save that. And boom, there we go. Create a name, create a description, create and mint. So here's where we're headed. All right, that gives us this first prompt here. So create a name, description, create and mint. That's exactly what our form looks like over here, although that one's already filled in. Okay. And then next, what we're going to do is give ourselves another div. Okay. This is going to be class name. equals image. All right. And then this is going to say image tag. And we'll give this a source attribute. We'll just leave it blank for now. We're going to change that in a minute. But we're going to give it an alt, which just says AI generated image. Okay. And then let's go back to our page and our actual page. And you can see that doesn't look right. So let's just change it. So basically we take this image div and put it inside this form. All right. And then bring it over. Okay. And then let's see here. All right. Now that looks a lot better. Okay. It's looking more like our app. Okay. So lastly, we want to do this little view metadata link. Okay. So just below all this, let's just say below here, I think that's where we want to do it. We're going to create a paragraph. Okay. I would say view. We'll do this and non-breaking space. That's just an HTML entity. And we'll give it a link here with an A tag. That's what a link is. And I'll say href. We'll just give it no URL yet. We'll say metadata. All right, save that. And then you can see view metadata here. That looks a lot like this. Okay. So we need an extra space. Well, let's do, I think this is how you do it. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, awesome. So basically you just want no space after that. It's kind of a weird thing, okay? But basically React is also gonna want these things to silence our linter warnings. Like if you go to your server, it's gonna say like, let's just see here. It needs these alt tags and stuff. Basically you gotta do this, okay? You gotta add these target equals underscore blank and then rel equals no referrer, okay? So that's going to open up in a new tab, and then it's going to satisfy this linter warning from React. Okay. All right. So that is our basic UI layout. All right. So now let's focus on the AI image generation. Okay. So basically what we want to do is, put in a name for our NFT. We want to put in a prompt for the AI image generator in this description. And when we click create a mint, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to talk to, Hugging Face, the stable diffusion model, and it's going to give it that prompt and it's going to return an image for us. And we're going to display that image right here. That'll be step one. Because going back to our diagram, as the user does, they come to their browser, they generate the image, they see the image, it uploads to IPFS, and they mint in the smart contract. So let's do that first image generation step. Okay, so basically, we want the image generation to happen when we click create and mint. That's the part we're going to focus on first. Okay, so what we're going to do is use an onSubmit handler for the form. So basically what happens is we're going to have a function that gets run whenever the user submits the form. If they click this button, it'll submit the form. If they hit the enter button on their keyboard, it'll also do that. So we don't want like an onClick handler. We want a submit handler. So we do that like this. We just say onSubmit, okay? And then in React, we can use these curly braces to evaluate JavaScript. And we're going to just give it the name of a function called submit handler. All right, this function doesn't exist yet. We're going to create it right now, okay? So at the top of our file, we're going to create a function right here, just below load blockchain data, which we'll see here in a second. But we'll just say const submit handler equals async. We'll pass in an E, okay? And then we'll do these curly braces like this, all right? And we're going to say console.log submitting, just to see that it works. But before that, we're going to do a line called e.prevent default. All right, I'll explain that here in a second, but let's just make sure this actually works. Okay, so we're going to go to our browser, all right? And what we're going to do is click inspect element, or inspect, all right? I've got mine to set up in a different window, but yours is probably going to pop up at the bottom of your developer console, or at the bottom of your browser. So it should look like this, all right? But I'm going to show you how I do it. I like to do it like this. I like to take it off so I can open in a new window, which opened in my second monitor, but you'll see it pop up like this. So that is the inspector, okay? You can see the DOM here, the HTML content, but you can go to the console And that shows you all the JavaScript that's getting executed, and you can look at, the JavaScript on your page. So anyways, maybe we'll just keep it on the bottom so that it's not so confusing. But if I click create mint now, you'll see this log to the console submitting. Right? That's the console logging statement that we just saw here. All right, so that's working. Let me talk about this event prevent default. This confuses people sometimes. What is that? Well, in this submit handler, like we call it here, but it passes in one argument, which is the event. It's the submit event, in JavaScript. And so we do this prevent default because the default behavior for a form in HTML is to do a new request. And if you don't put that in there, your page is going to refresh and it's going to just reset. Okay. So that's the default behavior. So e.prevent default is just prevents the default behavior. It stops the page from refreshing so that you can stay on the page and continue to do other things. All right. So inside the submit handler is where we're going to, we're going to orchestrate this routine here where we call the AI image generator and we put the image on IPFS. And then, we actually mint the NFT on the smart contract. A lot's going to happen inside of here. So let's, focus on this part, the AI image generation. In order to do that, we need to get the prompt to talk to the generator, okay? It generates the image from the user input. So this name and description here, we need to capture these. So just like we have an on submit handler here, we're going to have an on change handler for each of these inputs that's going to save that input so that we can reference them inside the submit handler in order to, mint the NFT from the user input. So what we're going to do is after this, we're going to do on change. Okay. We're going to do that for each of these. All right. And then we're going to do a function like this, E. Okay. And then we're going to do something inside of there, but I'm going to copy this and put it on each of these first. Okay. So for on change for the name, we're going to do a set name. And we say e.target.value. Okay. That's just this value that the user put in. And on this one, we're going to do, set description. And then e.target.value. Okay. So maybe I'll just zoom out so you can see this better. And it's going to be kind of small, but if you want to pause the video, let me format it better. All right. That's what it should look like. Oh, sorry. That's what it should look like. Okay. So what is it going to do? Well, this set name and set description, it's just going to save this stuff to the React state. So those functions don't exist yet. We're going to create them in a second. But if you go back to what I was saying before about React, it's going to give you this problem right here. That's okay. We'll fix it. React has a state that you can save stuff to. Before, like I was saying, if you have a to-do list and you have multiple items on the to-do list, you add item 1, item 2, you're having user input that you want to save somewhere or any type of data. Where does it go? It goes inside the React state. So because we're using React functional components, we're going to use React hooks for this, okay? We can use this use state hook. Okay, we're already using it up here for our blockchain account and the provider for Ethers.js. You can see this, account and set account is use state null. So this is just a hook. And when we use state, what it does is we can use this syntax. We can give it an array. And what that's going to do is going to return an array of a variable that represents the current value saved here, and then a function that lets us write to that value. So like for an account, you can just say use state null, and that's going to return a variable called account, which lets you read the MetaMask account, and then a function called set account, which lets you update the MetaMask account in the actual state itself. So we can do the same thing for the name and the description. All right. We can basically just say, let's just go up here and then I'm going to bump up the font again so you can see it better. Say const. All right, give it an array. And we'll say name and set name equals use state. And we'll just use a empty parentheses. So this is a default value, okay? So the default here is a string. These defaults are null. So I'll just copy this. We'll do it again. And we'll say description. and then set description. Okay, and then inside of here, all right, that's done. So we'll have these functions that we're calling here, okay? But then we can access those inside our onSubmit handler. Let's just do submitting, and we'll do name and then description. So now we can read those values from our form field inside this submit handler. All right. So let's go to our app. Let's do name, my description. I can't type today. Click create mint. And you can see submitting, my name, my description. You can change it, my name 1, my description 1. You can also hit the enter button on your keyboard instead of clicking the button and see that it also works and that the new name and the new description is there. You can clear them out. Okay. And they'll be blank. All right. So that's working. All right. We've got access to those. So now what we're going to do is take that description and call the AI image generator, and we're going to put the content of the image back here on the page. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Hugging Face API to talk to Stable Diffusion. All right. And how are we going to do that? Well, this is the API, but then we also need to use a library to make API requests inside of JavaScript. And that's exactly what we're going to use Axios for. Okay. So we've got Axios already saved up here in our project. We've got it imported so we can just make API calls. You can see how to do those here. All right. You can just do the basic reference. Let's just see here. Request configuration. You can just do the Axios function, and you can just pass all these different parameters like the URL for the API request, the method, the base URL, any data, all that type of stuff. Okay. We'll see that in action here in a second. But what we're going to do is basically just go back to our app. I'm going to pull the font down a little bit so you can see it better. And then we're going to create a new function here called create image. We'll just say const create image. And this will be a function, async. Okay. And then we'll do this. All right. And then we'll say console log generating image. All right, now we want to call this. Let's take out submitting. We don't care about submitting anymore. Oh, we know it's submitting. We'll say create image. Okay. Well, we defined the function here, and we're calling it here. So let's just do create image. All right, let's go back to our project right here. Let's refresh to be saved. Click create mint, and you'll see that it's generating image. It's that new value loaded to the console, so this is working. Okay. But inside of here, we're going to make our Axios API request. So let's leave that here for now. And then below that, we're going to make an Axios request like this. We'll just say Axios. That's the function to make an API call. Okay. Now, inside of here, that's going to take an object like this in JavaScript, which we can, basically use to do all the settings for the request, which you can see inside the Axios documentation here, like the URL, the method. All right, so we want a URL. All right, we want a method. It should be post. A post request is something that just submits information to a server. Okay. It writes information, basically. We're going to have something called headers. Okay. And inside the headers, we want to get the API key, which we'll do in a minute. We're going to do the data for the request, which we'll do in a minute. And then what is the response type, which is going to be array buffer. Okay, we can just do a trailing comma, that's fine. Okay, so let's start with the URL. So the URL is going to be this. I'm going to basically just keep this inside of the... I'm just going to get the URL from the final code solution. Okay, you can grab that. It's okay to kind of cheat in this regard. I don't want you to hand copy this. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But basically, I'm just saying const URL equals this. Okay, API interface, huggingface.co/model stability AI stable diffusion 2. You can replace this with different models. So if you go back to the documentation here, you can see the different models available. This is just the one that we want to use, stable diffusion number 2. Okay, and we're going to put that URL here. Okay, we're just saving it as a variable, and then we're putting it here. It just makes it more readable. Okay, you're not having to have this really long URL right here. We just save it to a variable and then, reference it here. So for headers, we want to have a couple different things. We want authorization. Okay, we want the exec application JSON, and then we want the content type. It's going to be application.json as well. All right, now here is where we're going to put our API key, okay? So we've got that in our .env file, okay? So, you should have it saved here. I'm not going to pull mine up because I don't want to reveal it on screen. But basically, you can reference that, with process.env and then adding your environment variable. So you can do basically process.env React app Hugging Face API key, all right? So that's what we're going to do. Basically, we're just going to use the bearer token. That's what it requires for the request editor. And then we can, interpolate this inside of a string, inside JavaScript with this template string, and then say process.env React Hugging Face API key, okay? And then finally, the data. We're going to do this. We're going to say JSON.stringify. And then we need to actually get the description that the user put in. So again, we save the description with that, description here. So we can basically just say inputs. This is what the API requires. And say description. And then options. Say wait for model equals true. All right. And so this is really just going to be something that the API, has options for. So we do want to wait for the model to finish before we get a response. Okay. So I'm just going to format all this, and we're going to save it like this. So say const response. All right. I'm going to format this just to make sure it's all done properly. Okay. So this is exactly what you should have. So if you want to pause the video and see that on your screen, that is the exact solution for the API request. Well, let me pull this over so you can see the URL as well. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually get the image. All right. So we're going to do this. We're going to format the image. It's going to return us the actual image itself. So we're going to do this and say const type equals response headers. So this is the response we got back. We're going to fetch the headers off of it. Content type, that's the type. The data is also going to contain something in the response. Okay. And then what we're going to do is create that from a buffer. All right. And we're going to set the image like this. All right. So I'm just going to do that here. Say const base64 data equals buffer from data. That's the data that comes back in the response to string base64. We're going to save that to an image. All right, we'll do data type image base64 and then append it here. This is so that we can show it on the page. And we do set image inside of the React state, okay, so that we can actually put it on the page. And then finally, we're going to return the data like this. All right. So if you want to pause the video, you can see that. All right, now, so set image is a function that does not exist yet. We want to save the image that we get back from the API to our React state. So similarly, we have set name, set description. We can also do image and set image just below that like this. Say const image and then set image equals use state null. All right. And then whenever that's done, we should be able to show the image on the page. So what we're going to do is go down to our HTML content for the image. And then for the source, we're going to show the image here. All right. And then let's just see here. What else do we need to do? Create an image. We're calling the function here. For now, what we're going to do is just take the image data and we're just going to save it to a variable. All right. And let's add a comment here that just says it's calling the API to generate the image. All right. So image data equals create image. It's going to call this entire thing. We're going to do this. Hopefully it's going to work properly. we're going to just, talk to the server, get it back, and show it on the page. So let's look at our app. Let's see if it's yelling at us yet. It's not yelling at us yet. So let's do another one. Let's just say, Mickey. Well, I don't want to have a copyright strike on the video or something like that. Let's do hungry walrus in Thailand. Well, that's the description. So the name we'll just call us Walrus, Mr. Walrus, and then we'll give it that description: hungry walrus in Thailand. So the name is the name for the NFT. The description here is the actual prompt that we're giving the AI image generator. So that's important to understand. So let's click create a mint and let's see if it works. So the image being generated here. Let's wait for a second to see if it comes back with the API, and it should just show the content on the page. All right, so once that comes back, you should see your image here. Now that's pretty frightening. So maybe you want to use a different prompt if you want to. But anyways, yeah, that's how it works. So it's working. It's putting the image back into the HTML of the page. And also one thing to note here is that this API request might be a little slow sometimes. So if you don't receive a response, just wait like a minute the first time. You could always just try it again. You could also add some console logging statements in your code just to make sure that, you see a response back. But it should work. It's just sometimes the API can be a little slow. So anyways, we've got that part done. Now let's move on to the next part, which is adding the image that we've gotten back to IPFS so that we can put it in the smart contract for the minting. All right, so just like we have a special function for image creation, I'm going to minimize this. And just below that, we're going to create a new function called const upload image. Okay, let's be async. And this is going to require an argument, the image data, which will be the image data we got back from the API. And so inside of here, what we're going to do is we're going to just say console log uploading image. All right. And we're going to use the NFT storage software developer kit to do that. Okay. So we've pulled that in here. We've got NFT storage. All right. From this NFT.storage package from Node Package Manager. Again, we're using this NFT storage service to upload stuff to IPFS for free. And they give you a software developer kit, which we've already saved in the project right here. So down inside this function, all right, inside upload image, I'll show you how to use that package. We can just basically say new NFT storage. Okay. And then we give it a token, which can be the access token. We're going to read that from our environment variables, just like we did inside the Axios request here. Okay, we're going to say process.env React app NFT storage API key. You can copy this from your .env file if you want to, just the variable name itself, not the actual value. Okay, and then we're going to save that to a variable. Just say const NFT storage. Okay, give it a comment so we understand what this is. All right, and then we're going to make a request to the storage like this. Say send request to storage. We do const IP NFT equals await NFT storage store. That's the function on the SDK. What's the image? We give a new file. We give it the image data that's passed in from the function here. We give it the type image.jpg and then type image JPEG. And we give it the name, which is the name that the user inputs. All right. It's coming from here, from name and set name. And then we give it a description, which obviously is a description from right here, which we also use in the AI image generation. Okay. And then we're going to save the IPFS URL that comes back. Okay, so we'll do save the URL. And we'll say const URL equals this, ipfs.io/IPFS IPNFT, that's this, metadata.json. And we'll do set URL, all right, which is going to save it to the React state, and then we'll return it. So we don't have this function yet. Let's create it. Go up here. And then just below our other state variables, we'll do this. We have an image already. So we'll just do const URL and set URL equals use state null. All right. So we got create image, we've got upload image, we've defined the function, but now we need to call it. So we're doing this outside of the submit handler. We've done the image generation, create image. We've got the image data that we can pass in here. So let's just do that. We're going to essentially do this line. Say upload image to IPFS, NFT storage. So const URL equals await upload image. Okay. And then we'll just say, we'll just for now say console.log URL. Okay. And we'll also go ahead and put that URL on the page. All right. So down here in our code, we've got a place for that. We've got this, view the metadata. So what we're going to do is say href, and we're going to put in the URL here for the metadata. All right. So now we should be able to witness this entire process on the page that we described here. So generating the image, getting it back, submitting it to IPFS, getting that back. We're not minting yet, but we are going to have all this part done so that we can actually mint the NFT. So let's just make sure that that works properly. Okay, if you want to see all the code for image uploading so that you can just pause it and make sure it looks right, that's it. And then just make sure that you're calling that, here, that you're passing in the image data that you got back from the API, say it as a variable here, that you're, using the URL here, that you're console logging that, which we'll see in a second, and then also that you put that URL as this metadata URL here. So that's when we'll know that, basically all the UI is wired up. So let's go back to our app, give that a shot. Let's use a new prompt here. Let's just refresh just to make sure. Let's go to our terminal, make sure there's no real bad issues in here. There's some linter warnings, but there's no errors. Let's look at our console, make sure there's no terrible errors. I expect this one to be there. Don't worry about that for now. But let's observe this in real time. So let's say name, we'll say goofy bird. We'll say funny bird with sword and swing. I don't know. Create mint. So you can see this generating the image, and now it's uploading the image, and then here is the URL. And whenever it's done, you can see the image on the page here, okay? You can also click on this view metadata, and this link should work by showing you the actual IPFS metadata. It's got the name, goofy bird, description, funny bird with sword and swing, and then here's the image URL for the NFT itself that'll get minted whenever we put it in the smart contract, okay? So again, a terrifying image. You can play around with this and change the parameters and try to generate some not so terrifying images. But yeah, so that part's basically done. All right, we've done this part of the equation, which is generating the image, putting on IPFS. Now we're ready to start minting. And so in order to do that, all we really need to do is take the IPFS URLs we just got back with our images and our metadata. We need to call the mint function on the smart contract, and it's going to spit out an NFT for each one, just like this. Okay, so we've got one part of the puzzle, the image, URL, and IPFS, the metadata. Now we just need to talk to the smart contract and call the mint function in order to actually issue the NFTs here and then pay, the developer who did that. So what we need to do is wire up the project to talk to the blockchain, talk to the smart contract. So luckily, we've already created a connection to the blockchain with Ethers.js. Again, if you're not familiar with the Ethers.js library, what it does is it basically turns your website into a blockchain website. Like right now, we need MetaMask to turn our web browser into a blockchain browser because most browsers don't connect to the blockchain of the box. That's what MetaMask is for. And then, most websites aren't going to talk to the blockchain of the box either. That's what we need Ethers.js for. So we've got a connection to that already in our app with an Ethers provider here. You can see this provider equals new Ethers provider. It's a Web3 provider. We just get the window.ethereum object that's injected by MetaMask, and that gives our connection. We use set provider, okay, and provider, this, from the React state to just save our connection inside of there. We're doing this to this load blockchain data function. that we programmed ourselves. It was already set up for you, but it's user defined. And then we call that function inside of this use effect hook inside of React. We call load blockchain data, okay? So what we need to do now is actually wire up a connection to that smart contract. So, we created the smart contract already inside this nft.sol file. We deployed the blockchain. Whenever we did that, it created some information for us. It created this ABI. So if you look at the artifacts, you can see contracts, nft.sol, nft.json. This is an artifact file, but inside of it, it's got this ABI file, which stands for Abstract Binary Interface. This is just a JSON description of, what your smart contract looks like, okay? Like the functions it has, what arguments they take, et cetera, et cetera. We need that and so that we can talk to the smart contract inside Ethers.js. So if you didn't make any changes to the NFT smart contract, you should be able to just use the ABI file as it is. But if you did make any changes, you want to take this ABI file, not the entire file, but just literally copy what's here from line 5 all the way down to this one before you get to bytecode, this entire array. And you want to put it inside of this source directory, ABIs, nft.json, and then just put it inside of here, okay? So if you didn't make any changes to the code, don't worry about it. If you just change the name and symbols, you didn't change the smart contract code, you don't have to worry about that. The ABI should stay the same, but if you customize it any way, you need to take your new ABI and replace what's inside of here. Now next, we need the smart contract address, okay? So we got that inside of our config.json file. So inside of source config.json, we have the network that we're currently deployed to, which is hard hat. That's the hard hat network ID. We have the NFT contract name. We have the address, which is saved right here. Now, most of the time, most of the time, hard hat's going to give you the same address every single time. But whenever you deploy yours, you should see the contract address here. Just take that and make sure it matches what's in this file. Okay, so mine matches. We're good to go. All right. So we're going to create a JavaScript version of the contract inside of here, like this. Basically, Ethers, all it wants to do is it requires us to use the ABI and the address to talk to the smart contract, and we create a new JavaScript version of it like this. We just say new ethers.contract, sorry, capital C, and we're going to say const NFT equals this, all right? And then when you give it the ABI and the address, so basically, ABI, the address, ABI, and then also the provider, okay? So the provider, we've already got that here, all right? The ABI, we want to get from the file, which is, here, all right? We've already imported that, so ABI is here, so NFT is the NFT ABI, so you can just change this to NFT. Now the address is a different story. We need to actually read the address from this network configuration file, okay? So in config.json, we're going to read this out. So basically, we've got the config already loaded here. So we've got config, so config.json. We want to dig into that and get the address out. So we're going to say config. We want to pass in the network ID. All right, and then get the NFT.address. All right, so we're digging into that. It's going to return a JavaScript object. We pass in the network ID key, and then we get the NFT and the address. Now, we don't have this network yet. So how do we get it? Well, basically, we're going to do this. We're going to say const network equals await provider.get network. And that's going to basically get the network we're connected to from MetaMask. And then it's going to have the chain ID, which will be 3317. I can't remember what it is. 31337. All right, and then that's going to dig into that, because we want the address might change on each network, right? So that's why we do that. All right, and then once we've done that, we're going to save that to the React state. All right, we do set NFT, okay? And then basically we don't have that function yet, so we're going to do that just below the account. We're going to say const NFT, and then set NFT equals use state null. Okay. And so just to see if this works properly, let's do this. We'll say const name equals await nft.name. And then we'll just do console.log name. is name. That's going to be a smoke test to make sure that we're talking to the NFT properly before we go through all this stuff. All right. So let's go here. Let's open up our console again. All right, let's just refresh, and then awesome. You see the name is properly logged to the console. Name equals my awesome NFTs. That tells you that your smart contract is actually generated. Okay. So let's take out this part. We don't need that. That's just a test to make sure that it was wired up properly. What we really want to focus on is the minting behavior, which is this part right here. Okay. So what we're going to do, go back into our submit handler. We've already uploaded the image. We created the image. I'm going to minimize those for now. We're going to create a new function called mint image. All right, so create image const mint image equals async. And we'll give it the token URI. I know I have a typo there. I'll fix it in a second. Let's see. Actually, no, it's good. And then inside of here, we'll say console.log. Say waiting for a mint. Okay. And so what we need to do is just talk to our NFT and call this mint function right here. It's going to accept the token URI, which we got back from upload image. Okay. And then we're going to pass that in here, and we're going to call our smart contract. Now, how do we do that? Well, first we need to get the account connected from MetaMask. That's going to be an Ethers.js signer. So I say const signer equals await provider get signer. All right, so again, the provider is just our connection to the blockchain, which we got here. We did set provider. And then the signer is just going to be the signer from MetaMask, which represents the account. It lets us do things like sign transactions. So I'll say const transaction equals await NFT.connect signer, so it knows which account is actually calling this function. And then we'll just call the mint function. All right, so the mint function requires the token URI. So we'll say token URI. All right, which is coming from here. All right, but then what you'll notice is we need to pay the developer. You know, they're going to get 1 ETH for doing this. So our function is payable. All right, so we can send in cryptocurrency, or Ether in this case, with the value metadata. So after the argument, we're just going to do this JavaScript object here, which lets us pass in metadata. And the value metadata for the transaction is 1 Ether. So we can do 1 Ether like this, say Ethers utils, parse units 1, and then Ether. Okay. And then I'll zoom out on this in a second where you can see it better. But then we just do await transaction, wait for it to finish. And then that should be everything. So I'm going to kind of format this a little bit better so that you can see it. All right, let's just zoom out. And then let's just make sure that you can see all that properly. And if you want to pause the video to make sure that your minting function looks correct, that's what it should look like. All right, so we've defined this function, but now we want to call it. So just below this, we take out this console log, and we're going to say await mint image URL. And then we'll say console log success. All right, so let's go back here. Let's refresh. Let's do a new image prompt. We'll just say funky monkey. Playful monkey in Hawaiian shirt. I think I misspelled that, but whatever. All right, you'll see the transaction confirmation pop up for MetaMask. It's going to ask us to pay 1 Ether to do the minting. Okay, click confirm. And then boom, there you go. It was successful. We minted the NFT. You can see the image here on the application. And if you go to our blockchain, you'll see that the image that the transaction for NFT mint actually went through. The value's 1 Ether. And then you have a transaction hash, which you could surface to the user if you're on a test network or a real network, and then look at it on Etherscan, and it'll show you the actual minting function that took place right here. All right, so now we have successfully minted the NFT. We've gone through this entire, process of generating the image, putting it on IPFS, talking to the smart contract, and returning the newly minted NFT to the user's wallet. Developers got the money, okay, and the smart contract. But the website really isn't complete yet. The core functionality is done, but it kind of lacks some polish. Okay, so let's do that. Let's finish that off. All right, because if you refresh the page, you'll see that like it's got this broken image here. There's no real feedback to the user about what's happening, right? So let's fix all that. Okay, so let's do these one by one. Let's first of all take out this console log here for success. Okay. And there's also a problem where a user could do create and mint, and they could do an empty, they could just create an NFT with no name or description. So let's fix that part first. So inside of on submit, let's make sure that they have a name and a description. So what we're going to do is before this, we're going to put this line in here that says if name is equal to empty string, so basically if it's blank, or if description equals empty string, then say window.alert, please provide a name and description, and then it's going to return. It's not going to execute the rest of the function. So if we go here, we leave it blank, we do create image, it's going to say please provide a name and description. If we just do a name, foobar, and no description, it will also catch that, and vice versa. All right, so the next thing we want to do is give the user a sense of what's happening whenever they click buttons. Because the last thing we want to do, first of all, is just have this, blank, have this broken image here on the page. And then whenever we generate the image, just be not knowing what's going on in the background. We want to have a spinner here that shows that it's loading whenever they've submitted. Okay. And then some text that tells it what's the app doing. It's, uploading the image, generating the image, uploading to IPFS, and then minting the NFT. So what we're going to do is use a spinner that's provided by React Bootstrap. Okay, so you can see the React Bootstrap spinner is imported here. Okay, spinner from React Bootstrap spinner. And so what we're going to do is just go ahead and put this spinner just below this image. For now, we're going to change it in a minute. We'll just say spinner. And then we don't need a closing tag, so we'll just do this. And then we'll just say animation equals border. Okay, we'll put that right there. There you go. All right. You can see the spinner is just hovering off to the side here. Okay. What we can also do is put this inside of a div like this. Say div class name image placeholder. Okay. And if we take the image out, let's just cut it out for a second. You can see that it actually spins in the center. Okay. Now, we don't want to take the image out permanently. We'll just leave it there for now. But I want to show the spinner on the page. We also want to show some sort of message, okay, that's contextual. So there's a couple things we need to do. Basically, we want to have a variable inside the React app that tells it to show the spinner, okay? So that's basically going to be a loading status. So we'll call it waiting. So if the app is waiting, it'll show the spinner. It'll be waiting whenever we submit the, do the on submit. We'll basically tell the app to start waiting here. Whenever this is finished, we'll say, hey, stop waiting. So basically we'll show the spinner here, and then we'll hide the spinner here. All right. So what we're going to do is create a state variable. All right. Not state variable, sorry. We're going to use the React state. I keep saying state variable. That's the smart contract in Solidity. We're going to say is waiting and set is waiting. Okay. So basically on submit handler, we're going to say set is waiting to true. And then when it's done, we're going to say, set is waiting false. Okay. And so what we're going to do here is basically, we're going to check for is waiting whenever we show the image or the spinner. Okay. So sorry, the code's jumping around on me here. So how we do that inside React is we use something called a ternary expression, which just looks for true or false. And then if it's true, then we do one thing. If it's false, do the other. So basically we're going to say bang is waiting. So that's the opposite. So if is waiting is true, we want to check for is waiting is false. Okay. And then we say question mark. Okay. Then we say if that's true, then we do one thing, else we do the other thing. Okay. We also want to check for the presence of the image. An image. So if the image is there and it's not waiting, then we want to show this image. Okay. Else, if it's waiting, just is waiting. Question mark. We want to do this. And if not, we want to do something else. If there's no image and it's just waiting, we want to show the spinner. All right. And then finally, if there's no image yet and we're not showing the spinner, then we just want to show this empty element here inside React. React lets you do these elements that are empty with no div tag. Okay. So we want to do all that inside of the inside of this image right here. So I'll make that a little clearer. If you want to copy that down exactly, that's what you should see. Now we're also going to show the message, which I don't have yet. So I'll go ahead and add that. I'll take that out for now. I'll go back to the message in a second. But yeah, that's the that's what you should have right there. Okay, I'll let you pause the video if you want to make sure that yours looks exactly like mine. Okay. So now let's talk about this message. So we want to add a message here to the user. Okay, I'll put that back in. And we want to populate this message based on what's happening. So if it's uploading the image, we want to say, hey, we're uploading the image. If we want it to, if we're doing the, minting, we want to say, hey, we're minting. So we're going to set that message up here. So just next to the waiting, we're going to say, you guessed it, message and set message equals use state empty string. Okay. And so inside of here, we're going to do the submit handler. We're going to say set is waiting. The message is going to be blank. Whenever we finish, after set waiting is false, we want to clear out the message again. All right. But then through each step, like create image, upload image, mint image, we want to actually set the message. So right now we've got these console logging statements that say like, hey, generating image. We're just going to replace those. We're going to say set message. Okay. So that'll look like that. Okay. And then for upload image, we want to replace that. So instead of console log, upload image, we're going to do set message, uploading image. And then instead of console log waiting for mint, we're going to say set message waiting for mint. And then each of those three messages will display right here when we're waiting. All right. And then finally, what we want to do, we don't want to show this metadata if if it's waiting and there's no URL yet. So we'll replace this with this. Basically, we'll just say bang is waiting and it's got the URL. Then we're going to say view URL and then we'll have the link to that. So when we load the app, we shouldn't see this metadata because there's no image yet. All right, there's no metadata to see. But once we've got all that done, we should have a fully functional UI with all the different feedback mechanisms that we want to surface to the user to let it know what's happening. So let's give it a test drive and see if it works. All right, let's just go to the thing here. I'm going to take this and put it off screen so I can view the UI better. But yeah, this already looks better. There's no broken image. You know, you can see it's just a blank canvas for now. Let's go ahead and connect our MetaMask to make sure that we can do the minting. Let's do a new image. Let's say llama. Let's say red llama. Say llama in red pajamas. Create mint. Now you can see this. It's uploading the image. That's nice feedback. All right. We're waiting for the mint. Okay. Click confirm. And boom, there you go. You can see our NFT on the screen here. So obviously this was trained with probably some sort of copyright material. You can see like the watermark here. This looks like it might be from a book. Okay, I think they use it even as the title of a book. So that is something to understand about some of these AI models, that sometimes they'll have obvious copyright issues with them. So that's something you want to take into consideration with your NFTs. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike in this video. But yeah, it's totally working. We have this nice feedback to the user about what's happening. You can click view metadata. That's hidden until it's relevant. And you can see the IPFS URL for the image. And you can also see the NFT was successfully minted on your blockchain right here. All right, so you have successfully created an AI NFT minting Dapp, full stack with the smart contracts with the front end. You've talked to the APIs, you've talked to an AI model, you've talked to IPFS, you've put the contracts on the blockchain and you're minting them all from the site. You're collecting the fees for doing that. So I want to know what you're going to create with this. So there's definitely some next steps that you can do. You can take your project, you can put it on a blockchain. It's a great project for your portfolio. You can put your front-end website out there on the web. You can tag me on Twitter. I'd love to see what you've created with this. Customize it however you want to. Add some cool different features to this. Some options are, instead of putting in text here, you could have a bunch of different words for them to choose from with like little buttons. You could have adjectives. It's almost like a Mad Lib, like adjectives, nouns, what do you call that? Like prepositional phrases, stuff like that. I'll forget my English grammar terminology here, but you could basically like have different parts of a sentence to put them together so they're not putting them wherever they want to. There's all kinds of fun games that you could do with this. And maybe you could even have a unique NFT collection based on that. You could have a maximum number of NFTs. So then when users come here, they're only doing that. Maybe they could run out of words anytime they use them. You could put the word values on the blockchain or something like that. So there's only certain words they can use. You can put them in a mapping inside your smart contract. Your creativity can really go wild with this, but this is just the starting point. I'd love to see what you create. Tag me on Twitter. And that's all I got for this tutorial. All right, so that's how you create your own full stack NFT minting application with artificial intelligence image generation. It's absolutely crazy. So again, I really hope you liked this video today. I spent a ton of time preparing this for you. And the only thing that I ask in return is that you like this video and you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because that really helps these videos out. YouTube will show them to more people and more people can learn about blockchains. We can push this entire space forward. And so if you like what you saw in this video today and you want to go for the throat and really beef up your coding skills, break in the industry, increase your salary past 100K, land your first blockchain developer job, whatever your goals are, I can help you crush through those over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. Again, you don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.